Hey, what's up, It's me again, Eugene Joke Stories. I think the Asian community, especially the anti-black Asian community, should watch this video. It's a rare video of us seeing an Asian person trying to recognize the contributions of Black Americans, were it not for the Black people. Asian Americans who are in America today could have not reached the number that they are today. Talk about civil rights movement, a number of things like affirmative action, a number of things like Black people vowed for a number of things that benefited majority of communities, and until today still benefiting even immigrants who are coming to the United States. Buckle up for this video. I don't want to say much because it explains a number of things that people take for granted, especially when it comes to Black people. And this is a reminder, especially to the Asian community, to the group of Asian people who are always anti-Black, right? So let's dive right into it. I'll be back and we'll talk about this.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. But the problem is our communities are divided. For Asian Americans and for African Americans, we probably have one of the worst relationships between any community.
Well, I bet you a lot of Asian Americans too don't, in my experience, don't even realize that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, there would not be 22 million Asian Americans in this country.
Thank you. What I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with Black blood? I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. But the problem is our communities are divided. For Asian Americans and for African Americans, we probably have one of the worst relationships between any community.
Well, I bet you a lot of Asian Americans too don't, in my experience, don't even realize that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, there would not be 22 million Asian Americans in this country.
Thank you. What I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with Black blood?
No, we're good. We are good. No. I'm speaking for Black American experience. Every time we have tried to band with everyone, literally, the whites come in and offer you all something and you leave us in the dust. We tried it. Our own people sold us out. Let's start there. Well, I don't even know if that, because I feel like it went by tribe. It was a war, but let's not even start there. Let's just say our own people sold us out, right? Arabs conquered North Africa, the Spanish slave trade, which they had Black people in. Then, when you look at the Native Americans, the 5 civilized tribes, most of them sold the Blacks back to the whites because the Blacks couldn't afford to prove that they were Native Americans. Every time we have tried to band with someone, y'all fuck us over. Figure it out your fucking self. I am not a racist person. I love everybody. But when it comes to success, I'm only worried about the Black American community right now due to the fact of if it was vice versa, everybody else would think of themselves. So we're starting to get the mindset you all have. And quite honestly, this is just my opinion. I hope this doesn't come off racist or, funny. You got to watch Asians. They're more slicker and narcissistic than white people. They're smart. Watch them. Even though they're cool, though, watch them. This is why I've gone to say I don't try to throw it in anybody else's face. But if you are not Black American, and I'm talking about descendant of the slave trade Black American, and even if you have the same skin color, and if you're from somewhere else, the civil rights movement and us not wanting to be slaves anymore and actually telling them we're not going to do the work literally brought you all in. We literally are the reason why everyone came in here. If we were good slaves and we actually did what the white man told us to do, none of you all would be here, honestly. And that's real tea. They only started letting everybody in because we started to fight back.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. But the problem is our communities are divided. For Asian Americans and for African Americans, we probably have one of the worst relationships between any community.
Well, I bet you a lot of Asian Americans too don't, in my experience, don't even realize that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, there would not be 22 million Asian Americans in this country.
Thank you. What I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, Do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with black blood?
That's what I'm talking about. He gets it. If you don't use black people and exploit them for your own cause, you won't get anywhere. So you gotta hop on a black movement, black protest, and you'll help for a little bit, and then start your movement, and then align with our so-called common enemy. Then turn the blame on us black people for the harm in your community, and then get a bill passed, leaving us with nothing. And then what you gotta do is blame us some more and say we're the reason that y'all aren't getting into colleges at a better rate, because apparently we were only getting in from affirmative action. So y'all had that overturned. The key is saying that we all have a common enemy and that we're so alike in our oppression, because you realize that the rights that you have are from black people. And don't mention the reason for the rift of black people and everyone else. Make it seem like it's a mutual thing and we did something to you and you did something to us. Don't mention the fact that you come into our neighborhoods, take our money, and commit violence against us. Present it as if it's both of our faults, and just wash and repeat, because black people are going to fall for it every time, because they want that unity with other races and not themselves. And let's explain it in a way that sounds like you're appreciative of what black people have done, so that black people will feel good and acknowledged. Continue to use black people for what you want. Ignore the fact that you're one of our oppressors and have always been. All you gotta do is stroke black people's egos. Let us start our movement and then pretend to go along with it, and then overshadow the movement. Focus on your own movement and leave us in the dust where we were. Use our longing for POC unity against us. Get where you need to go. 10 out of 10.
So there's a video floating around TikTok where there's an Asian American man that's basically saying that he is having conversations with Asians and addressing their anti-blackness, and talking about how black people, specifically African Americans in the United States, are the reason why Asians were allowed to immigrate to the United States. And Asians often forget that. Now, the point of the video is him saying that he's having conversations amongst Asians, because Asians need to understand and unpack their anti-blackness. That's what I'm talking about. It's that right there. Instead of you talking at black people, African Americans more specifically, you need to have conversations within your own communities and unpack your anti-blackness before you come talk to us. Because a lot of y'all want to skip that step. You want to skip the work that you need to do in your community. You want to skip those conversations that directly put a lot of your family members in the crosshairs and their problematic behavior that they have displayed for so many years in the crosshair. That's what I'm talking about when I say you guys need to talk amongst yourselves and then come back and talk to us when you have done the work within your communities to unpack your anti-blackness. Because a lot of y'all, again, are not trying to do that. You are still trying to just come to black people and talk at us about what we have been saying when we are demanding respect. And we are done with the disrespect. You're going to have to do the work this time. You are going to have to do the hard lifting and work on your own until you actually do the work to address what's going on in your community and why y'all are so anti-black. Why the first thing y'all did was jump in a pile-on of anti-blackness with white leftists because we were telling you guys that we were going to vote for our safety in this country and security in this country. And if we're not safe and secure here, we cannot assist people abroad. We cannot advocate for people abroad. You heard all of that, and you still jump to anti-blackness. So if you haven't seen that video floating around your FYP, if you are non-black, you need to watch that video where he's basically saying that all non-black communities need to go and have conversations, hard conversations amongst themselves and unpack that conditioning of anti-blackness. And then when you have done the work, the actual work, then you come to the table. And then maybe we can unify and actually dismantle these systems of oppression. BIPOC unity is not going to exist if you're not doing that. Period.
But the problem is our communities are divided.
I bet you a lot of Asian Americans too don't, in my experience, don't even realize that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, there would not be 22 million.
The problem is in division. This is the problem. Black Americans are only seen when we're beneficial to others. He said because of the civil rights movement, that's why 20 plus Asian people are here. But who was the sacrificial lamb during that civil rights movement? What other minority group was in the trenches with Black Americans while that was happening? Okay, and then on top of that, affirmative action, you know who benefited from that, even though it was meant for Black Americans and other marginalized groups? White women. And you see how they voted this past election. Other than that, if they're not benefiting from Black American people or Black American culture, they look at Black American people as less than. That's why they're always thriving and reaching for white proximity. This also applies to all the blacks that's not Black American. They think they better than Black Americans, but they're always cosplaying and benefiting from Black American culture. And these people are so disingenuous because they're only talking like this because of Trump talking about mass deporting Asians, Hispanics, Latinos, non-American citizens. That's the only reason this conversation came up, and that's why this is so disingenuous. It's funny now that they targeted, they want to give Black Americans credit. How come this conversation didn't happen 10 years ago, 11 years ago? The civil rights movement took place 60 years ago, and you now just talking about it? And since we're talking about this oppressor, this colonizer, the man, it's funny because he will hire a Black American before the Asian man will, before the Arab man will. Matter of fact, they'll come into your community, your Black community, take all your money, but they won't give you a chance. And then they judge you worse than the oppressor. Let one Black American person do something wrong, then they label the whole community that way. That's the same tactics the white man use. Right? So the problem isn't division. The problem is respect. Y'all view Black Americans as less than, and we're not having it. If we don't take that, accept that type of treatment from the white man, what makes you think that we're going to accept it from these middle groups? Are y'all that delusional? It's always good to show gratitude, but what does that translate into without respect? Genie in a bottle?
What I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with Black blood? I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. But the problem is our communities are divided. For Asian Americans and for African Americans, we probably have one of the worst relationships between any community.
Well, I bet you a lot of...
So then tell your community to stop being anti-Black towards Black people in America. I mean, it's not that hard. All you have to do is have a little meeting with your said race and tell them to stop being anti-Black towards Black people. Like, are we serious right now? Like, everybody starts with us. And then when we as a whole clap back at everybody, white people, Asian people, don't matter. Now it's all about, like, that's not how that works. We were brought here literally against our own will. In the Americas, in the Caribbean, in Canada, Mexico, we were brought here against our will, right? The majority of other races chose to come here. The majority, yes, I'm aware that some Asians were enslaved and brought here to work on the railroads in the West. I get that. But outside of that, the vast majority of y'all chose to come here. So stop with this whole, we on the same boat. We all equal. We all equally go through the same thing. No, we do not. No, we do not. And that's no hate towards the Asian community. I love my Asian folks down. But stop the nonsense. Work on your community and tell them to stop being anti-Black to us. When you guys owning your little corner stores and this, that, and the third, when you guys are owning your businesses and you see dark-skinned Black folks, light-skinned Black folks in general, whether they have cornrows, dreadlocks, whatever the case may be, walk into your establishments, okay? And you guys get a little bit of anxiety because we're wearing a shiesty or we're wearing a durag. Maybe you need to work on your internalized anti-Blackness before you sit here and worry about how we react to it, respectfully. Then maybe, just maybe, we can work together and fight this big old oppressor of ours, right?
I can't stand the word white supremacy because there's nothing supreme about white supremacy. In order to be supreme, you got to be better than everybody. When people only hand you things because of your whiteness, You ain't supreme. It really should be called white mediocrity, the white mediocres. When a group of people feel like they have to push others down or push others back in order to feel better about themselves, ain't nothing supreme about that, baby. But you know what is supreme? When you are in white male dominated spaces and still rise to the top. When nobody before you looks like you, but you still rise to the top. When you look to your left and your right and you don't see no sister locks, but you still rise to the top. Oh, baby, that's supreme. How about when you dominate in the whiteness of television? When you influence generations of kids to go to school in a space that was never meant for you to dominate? You push forward the culture and show everybody that we are not a monolith. Or how about when you're the first and you do it better than anybody could ever do, but they take your whole swag and try to play you out like you never existed? When you can reign supreme in a white male-driven society, produce the next generation of comedy, and blaze a trail that others before you could only imagine, that's when we'll call you supreme. When what you think is supreme about you stops being what is actually supreme about us, that'll be the day we stop calling you mediocre at best. See, look, a page full of white mediocrity. There is no such thing as a DEI hire. We have to work hard for everything we get. This is what it looks like when you don't have to work hard. Mediocre at best.
Hello folks, hello fam, how you doing? I hope you're fine. Now welcome back to the video. You see, it is high time black people are given their flowers, and I feel like a lot of the achievement, a lot of the fight that black people have given is really going unnoticed. This is because people are taking it for granted, and I thank those group of white folks, Asians, who are coming out and giving black people their flowers, because I feel like this is the time to talk about this. This is the time to give black folks their flowers, right? Because try to look at a number of people who have advantaged from the work, from the blood of black folks, starting with Caucasians, white people in the United States. They have benefited from this. They are people who have enjoyed the benefits majorly, because even the land, the soil, the sweat of black people's ancestors who are in the United States, who built, are the ones who enjoyed. Later on, during the Jim Crow moments, black people stood up and said that no, we need to fight, right? Because if it were not for the fight that black people stood and gave, other communities who are non-white would have gone through so much atrocities. So let's give props to black people in the United States for the work that they have done. And personally, as an African, because I know I got a lot of friends who are Africans who are in the United States, on their behalf, I think it is time to also thank them. Thank the Black Americans themselves for the work that they have done, for the work that they have put, because I feel like it's important to recognize this, to give them their flowers. And so much goes unnoticed when black people are not given their flowers. And it pains me seeing a group of Asian communities, especially Asian Americans or Asian people generally, when black folks go to visit those places, there's so much that they always come back with, which includes racism. Look at groups like Latinos, and I think they have addressed this. Look at Latinos. They are always anti-black, without knowing that Latinos who are getting into the United States, it can never be easier if it were not for the work, if it were not for the fight, if it were not for the advocacy that black people have put to make sure that it is sustainable for you as a black person, for you as a Latino, for you as an Asian, for you as an African who is leaving your place to go to the United States, if it were not for them. And a number of things that people fail to understand is that we need to stand together. Why? Because it has proven over time that if black people can stand and fight for some rights that are important to everyone, what if the Latino community, what if the Asian community, what if the African people in the United States come together, right? They could change, these dynamics. They could see a shift in how things are being operated. So just saying, it doesn't just end in that. But my point is, it is that time that black folks need to be given their flowers, because indeed they deserve it. They deserve to be given their flowers. I'm gonna be just going to do a read of some comments of people who are talking about this. Somebody saying, as a Nigerian woman, finally, this is what I've been trying to tell the Nigerian community. All foreigners should be thanking Black Americans for the opportunity they created for them. It is true, because African immigrants are still not left out in this group, because we have a lot of Africans who leave Africa to go and fetch for jobs, to go and fetch for works in these places. And when they got there, I mean, some of them do not want to, associate, because of a couple of things that have been told about black people, of course, which are not good, which are not even sometimes true, that it happened to, a couple of, black folks. So this being said, it means that we need to stand, look at ourselves, because if this is a Nigerian man who has stayed in the United States and have recognized this, it is high time we also as Africans, we are mandated in understanding that if it were not for black folks, it could have been easier. It could have not been easier for groups of people who are coming to the United States to look for job, make both ends meet, which is totally okay, right? Somebody saying that Arabs, Asians, Greeks opened their business in black communities and got rich as we accepted all. Why didn't they let you open your business in their neighborhood? It's really hard. I know there are few, but it's really hard for a black person to go and open a shop in China or Japan or somewhere, like it's just a black person, right? But it is easier for you. For example, if you come to Africa, I'll talk about my country, specifically Kenya. We have Indian restaurants, we have Indian electronic shops, we have Indian stores like the China Square. I mean, we have a lot of malls that belongs to these people. But if you go to places like China, Japan, it will not be easier for you to see or find a black person who has a big store that sells things. Yeah, that shows that Asians also need to change to some point, right? Because the relationship should not just be one-sided. It should be mutual, right? If you gain from black people, let's say X, Y, Z, black people also need to gain from you A, B, C, D, and that's how it's supposed to be. Somebody saying that we shouldn't do it, they wouldn't give us the same courtesy. Don't be tricked or sidestepped by the devils. We have to stand and protect our own. We stood up for the other groups, for other people way too long. And it's true, black people have stood for way too long. They've stood for people way too long. This is something that they have been doing way too long, right? So that being said, I hope and I believe that everyone who has ever benefited from the existence of black Americans, immigrants who are always going to these places, the support that they're getting from black people, I think it's time to just give black people their flowers, black people in the United States their flowers, because it's important, right? So yeah, tell me what you think about this video. I really want to know how you feel about all this, how you think about all this. What's your experience? You as an African immigrant who is in the United States, you as an Asian who is watching this video, you as a Latino who is watching this video, how have you benefited from all this? Tell me how you feel about this video. If you're watching this video for the first time, I'll most definitely ask you to subscribe to the channel, join our membership, and really get to see what we can offer you. Until then, see you in my next video.